Good evening, Mrs. Links. This is a subject that people like to fight over. People like to ask lots of questions about. People struggle with. It's a topic that has come up in emails and comments quite a few times over the past couple weeks, which means that there's a question there that people have. So usually when people start asking questions, I go, well, if one person has the question, there's probably 100, 200 more who have the question. And that's the question of, what are the definitive meanings of the cards? You know, what's the definitive tarot meanings? Someone also asked me this last week about the definitive playing card meanings. And like I said, it's a subject that people like to fight about and get upset about and there's absolutely no reason to fight or get upset about. It really doesn't get us anywhere or get you anywhere when you're divining. So let's take a look at it a little logically. I've got 5 tarot decks here. Okay, I've got my Arthur Tarot. These are ones that I use quite a bit, and that I very much like. This is there. Okay, so this one is all King Arthur. Okay, and I had quite a bit of medieval literature in school, and I've read quite a bit of King Arthur stories. So these have quite a bit of significance because of those legends. It's hard to separate those things when you study them, you read them. It's hard to separate them. So when I read them, it's hard to think, Guinevere. It's hard to not think about who Guinevere was in the story and what role she played in the story, especially in relation to Lancelot. And as Arthur's bride and the queen of Camelot. Now I've got the crow's magic here. This one's got some very unusual meanings here. This little book that comes with this deck is fan-freaking-tastic. But I'm going to tell you that the meanings for these cards and the imagery that's on it, the animals that are on it, is very different from what you get in, say, a Rider-Waite. And that's another thing. We've got Rider-Waite type decks, you've got Crowley decks, you've got Marseille decks. I personally, I could take or leave. I could take or leave most of those. But I do have one this is pretty much the Rider-Waite. Those of you who have the Halloween Tarot, this is pretty much the Rider-Waite style with Halloween imagery. So monsters and stuff. And you guys know from my past videos about decks that I use with monsters on them. This is my new favorite, the Panda. And then I've got this one here, which is the Sorcerer's Tarot. This is a spectacular deck. It's an absolutely spectacular deck. But the meanings here are a little bit different. So what I'm going to say is the imagery on each one of these, the stories on each one of these, the meanings that come with them and how the artists create them are vastly different, if not subtly different. In some cases, maybe there's subtle differences, but in like this case, it's vastly different. And this one is the Sorcerer's Tarot is quite a bit different from some of the other decks. So when people ask me, what is the definitive meaning? And there's one more here, my favorite. Where is it? My Fairy Tale Tarot. I must have left it in the box. That's okay. So I got a Fairy Tale Tarot too that you guys probably have seen me use in other videos. That was one of the first ones. That's Dorothy Morrison's deck. She did it for children. And that one has all sorts of fairy tales on it. So like, for example, the magician is Puss in Boots. The magician in this one is Merlin. The magician in the Panda Tarot is a panda, but there's 2 different magicians in this one. And the old Crowley deck had 2 magicians in it as well. But this one has the magician in 2 different styles. This one, it's a magician. It's a stage magician. For those of you who have this, so it's like stage magic. It's the magician in this one. Where is he? course I can't find it now, but he's a stage magician, okay? So he's pulling a rabbit out of a hat. And then this one has a magician that looks sort of like a formal wizard. Okay, here's the magician on this one. So each one of these is kind of different, and then the magician on this one, the crow's magic is an animal, and I think, if I remember correctly, there's some sort of cat. So the point is that each one of these cards portrays each of the archetypes in a slightly different way and has a different vision of it. Now, personally, I have a hard time with the whole what's the definitive meanings things, because when I started, I combined as many different... Oh, that's right. It's the magician on this one. So we've got a hawk on that one. All right, so the point is, or this one's an eagle, actually. So, actually, no, I think it is a hawk. So anyway, the point is that when I started, I combined so many different decks. I used so many different decks because I wanted to synthesize the different kinds of meanings of all of them. There was another one that I used when I started called the Sacred Rose. I still love it. I still have it. The Sacred Rose uses several different, I think there were 5 different colored roses, and each one of the roses has a different meaning, has a different significance. My point is that if you were going to decide on a definitive meaning, which one are you going to use? Is it going to be the meaning from the Sorcerers? Is it going to meaning from the Visconti Tarot? Is it going to be the meaning from the Marseilles? And I'll tell you guys, I have a Marseilles deck that I use extensively, and it's got a big fat booklet with it. I tried working with it. It doesn't work. It doesn't come through for me. Sometimes the meaning changes. Sometimes when you sit down and read for people, you get only a piece of one of the cards, not the whole meaning for the cards. So I guess my point is that you've got to experiment, you've got to play, you've got to practice, and you've got to see what you learn about each one of these archetypal energies. But I will say this for you guys who are out there wanting to know about definitive meanings. Think of each one of the archetypes as some kind of living energy. And if you think of it more like a living energy, and you practice with that in mind, and you get to know what that living energy encompasses, suggests, predicts, tells you, you will go a lot further than if you try to get a single book meaning and apply it to any single deck. Because no matter what happens, I can't, when I read the Magician in this one, I cannot forget what happened to Merlin. When I read the Panda deck, which one of the 2 magicians comes up tells me something different. When I read the Stage Magician in this one, I can't help but think that he reminds me a bit of the Dandy in Mexican Loteria cards. When I read this one, it makes me think a little differently than when I read this one, because I am interacting with the art, the pictures, what's there, and the living energy itself, and the person who's sitting in front of me. So, my suggestion in relation to this question is practice, play. See what happens when you sit down in front of a person, and see what happens in the interplay between the dynamic between you, the deck, and the person. What comes out, and what your intuitive and psychic faculties bring to the picture. Because there's no use in fighting or criticizing or beating each other up about the right way. Because somewhere in between, where everyone's arguing, is probably the way that's going to work for you. So my suggestion is don't beat yourself up. Don't lock yourself down. No matter the first time I read for someone professionally, no matter how many meanings that I had memorized, it all went out the window when I sat down and read for her, because something else emerged at that moment. And it was really about trying to help the individual get to the base of what she was asking me, and to see where the pieces of the puzzle were leading. And somehow it evolved into something much bigger than anything I've ever read in any of the books or the imagery, or even what the history, the supposed history of it had said. So Get yourself a deck, try it, play with it. Maybe look at a couple of different kinds of decks and seeing what the living energy of that archetype is telling you. There's no reason to fight. There's no reason to lock yourself down. There's no reason to throw out all the rules and say, I don't have to learn any of the meanings. But there's no reason that you have to adhere specifically to one philosophy if it doesn't work for you. I will tell you that one of the best and most creative decks, the meanings in this Crow's deck, are really cool. And they bring to light quite a bit when you use these meanings, which is a little bit different than what you get when you look at, say, the traditional Rider-Waite. And I know that some people like to lay on all the other stuff, the Kabbalistic stuff, all that other symbol. If it works for you, it works for you. The trick is, can you get the information that you're looking for? Can you divine from the oracle? And does it bear fruit? If it bears fruit, if you can make it work, why argue with it? In the end, can you get it, the information that you're looking for, and did you get what you want out of it? Isn't that really what matters? I am Lucky Links, as always, wishing you success and good fortune in all that you do. If you'd like to learn a little more about tarot, and you'd like to learn a little bit more about remaining flexible and open and interacting with the oracle, I'm teaching an intermediate to advanced tarot class. I'm also teaching a crystal ball class that's starting this week, which is going to be a very interesting ride. I have a Lenormand class. I will be teaching a Grand Tableau class, a class just on the Grand Tableau. In about a month or so, I'll probably be teaching a Mexican Loteria class. I think that may be all. Is that all? I might have another one. If you want to sign up for the classes, register, or if you'd like to get a reading from me, contact me 779-302-8009, or you can email me, conjurehope@gmail.com. And I'm also going to put my PayPal link here. If you guys are getting something out of these videos and you would like to donate to help keep them going, I would like to thank everyone for the generous donations that I have been getting. I have gotten some extremely generous donations from folks who wanted to see this going. Thank you very much. If you'd like to donate as well, I'm putting the PayPal link below. So get yourself a deck, get yourself a couple decks, play with the energies, play with it, and remember, practice. You can read the books, you can learn the meanings, but you really start to take off when you start to interact and read for other people.